Hello and welcome. Aquastra here, coming to you with another video, and today we're going to be looking at loot, and more specifically, loot from Mourningdale. Now, Mourningdale is a territory that I think is very underrated, that has a lot to offer, both resources and loot-wise. Today we're going to be going on a little bit of a loot run. It's a pretty short run. I don't go too crazy with Mourningdale loot, but it is a pretty short run, and you can obviously branch off from it, but this is just a Mourningdale run that I like to run when I don't have quite as much time, kind of similar to the last video where I just kind of hit some hot spots. Similar here, where we're just going to hit a few spots that have a decent amount of loot and kind of go from there. So let's get started on our run, and I'll kind of go over some of the loot that we are looking for. Alright, so the first stop we are going to be stopping at is Nembus here. Now, when you leave Mourningdale settlement, you're going to head out of the kind of north-northwest gate there, and it will point you right at Nembus. Now, with Mourningdale, a lot of the loot that we are looking for, you can actually pull from caches, crates, supply stockpiles, anything like that. And a lot of it is crafting mods. Mourningdale is fantastic for crafting mods. Now, some crafting mods kind of fluctuate in price. They'll kind of go up and down depending on the market. But in general, if you are specifically going for crafting mods or looking for a specific crafting mod, definitely see if Mourningdale happens to drop the specific one you are looking for. The main one that we are looking for is the Starmetal Weaponsmith charm. Now, that is going to be for the perk Refreshing Move, and that is what we are searching for. That is kind of the main craft mod that I am looking for, whether it's to keep or to sell. It can bring in a lot of money and definitely is worth it. But the first stop is going to be Nembus here. Now, each of these spots, there's nothing really overly special about each spot. A lot of it is just getting the loot, so I'm not going to go too deep into the individual spots and how to run it. I don't run Mourningdale quite enough to have a solid route of each area, but being that it's a lower level area, it does allow us to clear everything that much quicker and get to the loot. Now, there is a chance that I am going to miss some of the loot around here. But there is a lot. There are maps online as well that actually will pinpoint each of the loot locations. So, Mourningdale, though, like I said, very underrated territory for people to run for loot. You don't see a lot of people doing it, but there are some fantastic crafting mods that you can get here. Again, the top one being the Starmetal Weaponsmith charm. Alright. I think there's only a few more chests in this area, and then we will move on. Move right up here, get the ancient chest, and as you can see, again, everything is lower level here, so we have a much easier time clearing things than we do in Reekwater. So that's why I really like Mourningdale as well, because someone who isn't a level 60 could still come here and make some pretty good money before they even hit 60. So Mourningdale is pretty great for that. Alright, so now we are going to leave Nembus and start heading towards our next location. And get out here. Alright, so next we're going to follow this road, and we're going to stop at Crux and then head over to Haedus. Now, you can run over to Vila as well. I don't always hit that, but for today we're going to go Crux and then Haedus. So let me meet you over there. Alright, so we are nearing our next location, which is going to be Crux. And there's not quite as much loot here, but it is along the way to our next stop. So it is definitely worth stopping still. You never know what you are going to find. And of course, they're going to hit us right off the top. Now, you don't need to clear all the ads necessarily. They're not going to drop anything specific that we're looking for. But they are pretty easy to take out here. So that's why I'm just going for it. And then we will move on. And even as a healer, I can go through these areas pretty quickly. Let's hope we can get this. Perfect. And like any other looting, you're not guaranteed to get the juicy loot, but we are always going to be searching for it. So that's Crux. That's a really short one. There's not a whole lot there, but again, it's on our way. And the other nice thing is there are a lot of resources along this route. Further south, if you go further south, you're going to hit all of the hemp and wireweave and all that, or silkweave. But along this route, you're going to find a lot of soul gem or soul motes and stuff like that. Overall, there's just a lot of loot or a lot of resources. So the next area is Haedus. And this area is a little bit confusing. I do get a little turned around here, but there's a lot of loot and it's not too difficult to get to. I would say if you only have time for 1 or 2 stops, I would definitely stop here. If you were to stop 2 places, I guess, I would probably do Haedus and Propus. Those 2 spots do have a pretty heavy amount of chests, whether that be stockpiles or crates. There just seems to be a decent amount there. But we are going to loot this area. Like I said, I don't run Mourningdale quite as much, so I don't have a solidified route that I run for each individual area like I do in Reekwater. But I do sometimes use a map that will show me where the different loot is, or I just run it enough times where I develop my own kind of way of running it. But we're gonna hop up here. I do remember that this one's up here. And some of these areas can be, like I said, a little bit confusing, but similar to the Reekwater run, well, and part of the Brimstone run, it's really not too bad from a timing standpoint. Because I do know there's a lot of people who want to enjoy this game, but maybe don't have the time to invest like some other people. And maybe sometimes it even feels like you can't get the same quality of loot, or, you know, time just isn't going to allow it. So it is kind of nice to have a few options for that type of stuff, and especially for those who aren't 60 yet. I know it's hard to think, you know, are there still that many people who aren't 60? And it's like, well, the more new people we get, the more pre-60s there will be. And even for those who are 60, this is still a really good spot to hit for loot. But I do know it gets kind of tricky out there with everything being so focused around endgame or being level 60 that a lot of people are kind of forgetting that there are still people looking for that early game content, because again, either they're brand new to the game or they just haven't had the time to invest. Anything like that. So hopefully some of these locations will help you out. Alright, I'm gonna grab this one. And again, I might be skipping a few here, but we're gonna keep this moving and move on to our next spot, which is this spot right here. So let me head over there and I will meet you right over there and we'll start getting some of the loot. Okay, we are at our next location. So you have the Pueblo, Culto, Nunez, and we also have this little area down here, which technically is all the same area. But we're going to start down here and work our way up. So right over here, we'll at least have this little cache or crate. And again, there's not really any need for us to actually take out some of these mobs. Some of it I just do because it does make it easier. Others we're just going to leave because it's easier to just run past it. A little provision stockpile. And for provisions in Mourningdale, it is definitely worth it to grab any of the provisions stockpiles or crates, because you can get cauliflower from it. Cauliflower can be kind of tricky to get. A lot of people are looking for it. And it is something that definitely is worth stockpiling to either sell or keep for cooking down the road. The only way to get it is through the provisions and stuff, so... Alright. And again, there's quite a few soul motes in this area as well, which I can't help myself but farm it, right? Right in front of us, it's free, we gotta take it. Alright, so we'll loop around the building here. There is a door on the back side. Come on now. Alright, we'll get this crate. Keep on moving. And again, like any other loot spot, it is not guaranteed loot. We are just trying our hardest to get the juicy loot, but sometimes it just does not work out that way. But who knows, maybe we will pull a Starmetal Weaponsmith charm, you just never know. Alright, so then what we're going to do is leave that house and cut across here. This area I definitely know a little bit better. Decent amount of loot. Pretty easy to get to because they're all pretty close. And again, this is, you know, this is definitely a more casual run. You can extend this run, and I have done a more extended run where we go all around Mourningdale. But that gets to be a bit much and can be a little overwhelming sometimes to try to hit that many locations. So we're going to try to keep this simple. Alright, next we're going to go inside this house, and I believe we just need to go upstairs all the way up. Got a bunch of stuff following us, and then there's loot right there. Alright, so we'll grab this stockpile, and then we're going to head back downstairs. And part of what got me thinking about this video actually is I just crafted some fire staffs, and I was needing empowering fireball, and I kind of remembered that you could farm them in Mourningdale. So, all right, that is the last spot for this area. So now we are going to keep moving, and actually we're going to go over to Propus or Propus. So I will meet you over there. All right, we are at our next location. So we're looking at Propus here. Now again, there is a lot of loot here, and it's in a pretty small area. So if you were to hit two different spots, I'd probably just go here and here. Those two locations seem to have kind of the most loot in a small area. But again, Mourningdale, you're able to clear a lot more, so a lot of it's kind of like, well, you might as well just hit the spots that are along the way to those two spots. And if you have extra time, you might as well hit some of the resources and stuff along the way, because there are quite a few different resources that you can hit, from wordwood to soul motes, all that stuff. So if you're looking for that type of stuff, you might as well stop for it. Now when I do come here, I usually go right, and I kind of loop around the outside, because again, I don't always remember where all the loot is. But if I kind of work my way around the perimeter, I end up finding most of it. Just need to make sure there wasn't one back there. And then we just keep looping around. That. Alright. Keep moving here. I think there's normally a soul spire there. Grab the ancient chest. Alright, and then we can climb up over here. Yeah, I mean, just keep moving around the exterior like this, and you'll end up getting a good majority of the loot here. Alright, now we'll go up the stairs and try to hit up all this stuff. Should have time to grab that before they attack. Loop in here. Of course, he's got his shield up. There we go. All right. Grab that. I think we can actually climb up here first and then drop down and get all that. We'll go up top. that one. All right. Grab the ancient chest, and then we'll head downstairs and get all the stuff that happened to be in the middle. But a lot of these areas, like I said, if you're still trying to just learn the loot, just start working around the perimeters of an area and just work your way towards the middle. That seems to work really well for me. Otherwise, I know some people just kind of run around and can just remember where they're at. But if I don't follow somewhat of a route, I get confused easily. So I start with the outside and work my way in. Just so then each time I know, okay, we went this way and I saw this one here. So then if I slot in like another loot spot, I know that I can kind of go from one to the next. This makes it a little easier and organized for me as I figure out some of these areas. Okay, I believe that should be most all of the loot that was on the interior here. Maybe one more back here. Yeah, there is. We'll grab that. All right. Next, what we are going to do is head on down to here. So we're going to go down here. If you want to extend the route, you can go north, hit up the layer, go over here. But for now, we are going to go down to Lesath. So I will head on down there and meet you there. All right, we are at our last location here for this short loot run in Mourningdale. So we are going to end here at Lesath. So let's head on in and try to get some of the loot. Now, from the direction we're coming from, you kind of come from the back side of the area. So we'll just loop around the outside here and grab a little bit of the loot that happens to be outside. All right, we grab that, and then we will head on in. And again, this is a really short loot run, so do not take this as this is like, you know, a full loot run or anything like that. This is a short loot run. Some of my favorite spots to hit in Mourningdale just for farming some of those crafting mods specifically. Now, some of the crafting mods do drop in other areas, but it does seem like Mourningdale just has a really good collection of variety of different craft mods that you can get for different weapons, armor, stuff like that. That is why I like going here specifically for crafting mods. All right, head up here, we'll get this. And this area is pretty small, but as you can see, there's a decent amount of loot in a very small area. It's not a ton, but we're close enough to it from the last spot that you might as well. Grab that. And then I believe there's some back there, so we're going to jump over here. Oh, maybe not. All right. So I believe that's all we got for this area. So that is the last spot. So let's head back to settlement and we'll kind of go through the route in the map. Okay, we made it back to settlement here. So let's go over this short loot route. So starting from settlement, we did go to Nembus, and then we headed north up to Crux, and then a little bit east over to Haedus, and then northeast up into the Pueblo Nunez area, which make sure you do hit the southern spot first. And then from here, we moved up to Propus, and then Propus led us into Lesath, which is where we ended. Now, again, for this loot run, this is a really short run. This is for a casual player or someone who just wants to do a really quick run here and there. Because all these chests and crates and all that, they do have an hour cooldown. So you could run this once an hour. If you're like me, you might not like to invest, multiple hours into one loot run. I just need to change it up. I get too caught up in just like one territory. It's easy to do with places like Brimstone though, because there is so much loot. There's all the named creatures all over. But with Mourningdale, it's kind of up to you. If you do want to spread out your loot, you can definitely go over to Scorpius. New Balefire area right down here is fantastic for loot as well. I just didn't include it in this particular loot route because it just doesn't fit in to leave settlement, go down there, come back up. So New Balefire is one that I definitely would recommend if you want to hit just one location for a bunch of loot and not go elsewhere. Go to New Balefire. You can hit up this shrine really easy. If you're feeling saucy, you can go over to Scorpius and clear that area and get some of the elite stuff. But not necessarily easiest depending on how you're running your build and everything. But for the most part, Scorpius isn't too bad if you're 60. Now, if you are not a level 60, and let's say you're like a level 50, this loot run works great because you can still make a good amount of money before you even hit 60. You could get your houses going, all of that. So definitely something to think about. But that is the short little Mourningdale run that I like to run. Again, if I don't have a ton of time, or if I just don't want to spend that much time doing, loot running in Mourningdale, it's nice to have a little loop that we can go with. All right, that is going to do it for this one. So thank you to everyone who was watching today. I do really appreciate it. If you did like this video and like to see more, please drop it a like. If you like the channel and want to see more of the content that I'm coming up with, please drop a subscribe. It does really help out the channel, and it is free. I do stream throughout the week on Twitch, so if you do want to stop by a stream, we'd be more than happy to help you. If you happen to be on Orifina or whatever server I happen to be on at that time, and you want to run some dungeons, anything like that, just let me know, and I'd be more than happy to run them if I'm not busy with other things. But again, that is going to do it for this one, so thank you to everyone for viewing, and I will see you in the next one.